Did you know the world is more in debt right now than at any time in human history? According to the IMF and BIS, governments, corporations, and people like you and me owe $315 trillion. That is 3 times the size of the entire global economy. And every single year, 10% of everything produced on Earth goes not to new growth, but just to pay interest on all that debt. Imagine working all year and giving your first 5 weeks' paycheck straight to the bank, just to cover interest on your credit card. Most experts quietly admit this debt is not going to be paid back. The whole system is built to keep the interest flowing up indefinitely. But here's the part nobody is warning you about. When the next recession hits, this mountain of debt means it will not be a simple correction. We are looking at potential catastrophe. When you do not have to be blindsided. Stay with me, and I will show you why the risk is so much bigger this time, and the 5 steps you can start today to prepare, no matter what happens. First, let us explore why $315 trillion in debt is more than just a scary number. It is the key reason the next recession could be totally different from any we have seen before. By the way, all the figures I reference are sourced directly from the IMF 2024 Global Debt Report and the Bank for International Settlements. Those are not just random numbers. They are the official scoreboard for the world's finances. Let us zoom out. For decades, whenever the economy slowed, governments and central banks followed one playbook. Inject money, lower interest rates, print new currency, and bail out the biggest banks or businesses whenever they were in trouble. The result? We avoided the deepest recessions, kept unemployment from skyrocketing, and kept asset prices, stocks, real estate, riding high. If you owned a house or 401k in the last 15 years, you have felt some of the upside. But what most people never realized, we never let up on the gas. Even during good times, central banks kept rates low, propped up weak companies, and bailed out entire industries. We did not let bad businesses fail or clear out the economic deadwood. Instead, that debt mountain got steeper. The result? An economy hooked on cheap money, high prices, and what economists now call zombie companies. Businesses that only survive because they can borrow more money to cover their losses, not because they create real value. Source, BIS 2024 Stability Report. Now, fast forward to today. We are facing a different kind of slowdown. Global trade wars are brewing. Actual war threaten major supply lines. Interest rates cannot be cut any further because inflation is too high. And all that debt is stacked so high, even a small recession risks causing an avalanche of defaults. Some economists call this the recession we need to have. In theory, a downturn clears out inefficiency. Bad companies go under, resources shift, and the economy grows stronger. But here is the problem. This is not a controlled underbrush fire. It looks more like a wildfire, started by risky policy choices. No plan, no way to contain it. To understand how serious it is, you first need to know what recessions are supposed to do, and how we got here. Let us walk through it with real examples. A recession, at its simplest, is when the economy produces less for 2 quarters or more. GDP falls, layoffs increase, business activity drops. But recessions do not just happen. 2 kinds of shocks kick off nearly every downturn. Supply shocks and demand shocks. Supply shocks are easier to wrap your head around. A pandemic shuts down factories. A war blocks shipping. A hurricane wipes out power grids. We can see and feel those disruptions. Demand shocks feel weirder. The machinery and workers are all there. But spending dries up because confidence collapses. Suddenly, companies cannot sell products, so they lay off workers. Those workers spend less, and yet more companies see their sales drop. A vicious cycle. That is exactly what happened during the 2008 financial crisis. Nothing physical broke, but credit markets froze, and fear alone shrank the economy. Source, Federal Reserve Archive, 2008 to 2010. Now, here is the painful truth about demand-driven recessions. When you let them run their course, they serve a brutal but necessary purpose. They expose the businesses running on HYPE, burning investor CASH, not delivering real VALUE. When money is cheap and times are good, almost anyone can look successful. But come a downturn, the zombie companies, the ones that only survive by borrowing more or selling promises, go under. The capital, the workers, and attention they tied up get freed, and new, stronger companies emerge. Take the DOTCOM crash in 2001. Remember when any company with a website and a catchy name could attract millions from investors? Many was selling hype without revenue, without profits, and with no realistic plan. When the bubble burst, investors lost billions, workers lost jobs, but those resources quickly flowed to the champions that would define the next decade. Google, Amazon, real e-commerce and tech innovators. Let me back things up with a quick personal story. My neighbor, let us call him Mike, was working in real estate during the last housing boom. Like so many, he borrowed to flip homes, thinking the good times would never end. When the 2008 crisis hit, Mike lost his job fast. Within 6 weeks, his home was in foreclosure. I remember seeing moving vans outside, his kids crying, and it hammered home just how fast things can turn. Mike is back on his feet now, but it took years and careful preparation to avoid similar risks since. If this story hits home, or you have seen something similar, let me know in the comments. Now, coming back, the 2008 crash was not just about one bad business or a fluke event. Too much money had flooded into real estate and financial engineering instead of productive, sustainable businesses. Governments and central banks jumped in, cutting rates, printing trillions, bailing out failing companies. On the surface, it worked. Asset prices stabilized. Unemployment did not climb forever. But underneath, many zombies survived. The debt bubble expanded. And that is where we break from history. We stopped allowing natural corrections and let the debt pile up higher. Now, let us bring it to the present. Here is what the $315 trillion mountain actually looks like. Governments owe about $100 trillion, corporations another $100 trillion, and households around $115 trillion. Source: IMF 2024 Global Debt Update. Most of this borrowing happened between 2008 and 2021, when interest rates were near zero. Governments took out cheap loans. Companies issued bonds at just 3 or 4%. Families locked in historically low mortgage rates. That math only worked when rates were low and economies kept growing. Now, rates are up. Way up. Global growth is slowing. A company that could handle debt payments at 3% faces bankruptcy at 8%. When you are forced to refinance at twice or triple your old rate, it is like having your monthly bills suddenly doubled, while your income does not budge. Over the next 2 years, trillions in corporate and government debt will come up for refinancing, much of it at the new, higher rates. Not everyone will make it through. Some will refinance, many will default. And here is how the dominoes fall. If a big company defaults, investors, including pension funds or insurance companies, take losses. If those investors cannot meet their own obligations, they may default or require bailouts. This amplifies the pain, spreading it to millions who never borrowed that money themselves. That is what happened in 2008. Lehman Brothers defaulted, and within days, banks and funds around the world fell like dominoes. Back then, the derivative market was $60 trillion. Today, merely $600 trillion, adding even more hidden risk. Source: BIS Derivative Stats 2023. Now, let us talk about who really gets hurt during recessions. It is not evenly spread. Workers lose jobs, small businesses close, families lose homes. But people with major wealth, cash, assets, connections, often see it as a buying opportunity. Asset prices drop. They buy stocks, real estate, entire businesses at bargain prices. As the economy recovers, many end up richer than they were before. In 2008, millions lost their homes. Private equity firms bought those houses for half the price, renting them back to the very families who lost them. It is one reason why economic inequality has surged since. If you want more on how this works, or a deep dive into these cycles, subscribe so you never miss new breakdowns from Homer Invests. But let us get real about risk. While some say recessions clear out inefficiency, the pain is not always productive or fair. It is not just zombie companies that fail. New, healthy businesses often go under because banks freeze credit or investors panic. Regular employees lose jobs, not because they are bad at their jobs, but because their employer loses funding. Families lose homes, not because they were reckless, but because unemployment spikes and they simply cannot keep up. The pain can be harsh and indiscriminate. Now here is something truly alarming. Central banks and governments have very few tools left to fight the next recession. In 2008, the U.S. Federal Reserve had interest rates at about 5%. They could cut rates all the way to zero, a massive form of emergency stimulus. In 2020, rates were already low, but central banks went even further, printing trillions and buying up assets. It temporarily worked, but now inflation has returned with a vengeance. If they cut rates to zero again, inflation could soar well past the 9% peak we saw in 2022. Source: U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. If they do not cut, the slowdown could get much worse. There is no easy way out this time. And government borrowing, that has hit the wall too. In 2008, the U.S. federal debt was about 67% of GDP. In 2020, it climbed. Today, it is 125%, with trillion-dollar deficits every single year, even before a new crisis. If governments try to borrow trillions more for stimulus, the bond markets may revolt, driving up interest rates even higher. Debt service costs snowball. It is a trap. This is the heart of what economists call a debt deflation spiral. When households or companies who are over-leveraged start defaulting, banks take losses, so they lend less. Less lending means less business investment, less consumer spending. That shrinks the economy even further. More defaults, more losses. It is a vicious cycle that can drag on for years. In fact, this is exactly what happened in Japan after their asset bubble popped in the 1990s. They suffered nearly 30 years of stagnation, almost no growth, persistent deflation, lost decades. Source: Japan Ministry of Finance. Even if governments somehow prevent total collapse, the cost is inflation. Printing money can buy time. But as we saw between 2020 and 2023, pumping trillions into the economy caused inflation to hit a 40-year high in the United States. 9%, and over 10% in the EU and UK. Wages did not keep up. Real purchasing power fell for millions. If central banks print more now, we risk an even deeper hit to the value of our savings. Remember, this is for educational purposes only, and not financial advice. Always consult a financial professional before making decisions. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Now, switching gears, let us talk about trade wars. The #1 immediate trigger behind the current slowdown. Tariffs are meant to protect domestic industries, but when used too broadly, they backfire. Broad tariffs on hundreds of billions of goods raise consumer prices, disrupt supply chains, and spark retaliation. U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods led to China hitting American exports, especially hurting farmers and manufacturers. The uncertainty itself is crippling. If your cost of goods can change by 20% overnight, how do you plan for the future? You might hear that this tough love, shaking up supply chains, is necessary to bring manufacturing home and fix over-reliance on globalization. But destroying supply lines overnight does not magically create new factories. It mostly brings temporary chaos, higher inflation, and less investment. To really rebuild an industry, we would need targeted subsidies, infrastructure, and training, not blanket tariffs. Source: Peterson Institute for International Economics, 2023. Back to debt. As long as the world economy kept expanding and interest rates stayed low, $315 trillion in global debt, while huge, was sustainable. But with growth slowing and rates rising, servicing all that debt costs more every year. That means governments, companies, and families have less money left over for investment, education, infrastructure, or even daily needs. A recession makes this far worse. Tax revenues drop, but debt payments do not. If governments borrow more to plug gaps, their interest payments rise, forcing painful spending cuts or tax hikes. Companies, facing falling sales, still owe the same debt, so they slash costs, lay off employees, and stop investing. The result is deeper, longer recessions for everyone. Let us pause here with a quotable moment. In a world drowning in debt, your best investment is preparation, not prediction. If you found that useful, screenshot or write it down. Now let us talk action. If all of this sounds incredibly bleak, do not tune out, because right now is when preparation matters most. You cannot control global policy, but you can make your household resilient. I have put together a simple 5-step action framework anyone can start today. Remember, this is not financial advice. These are widely recognized best practices for managing personal risk. First, audit your debt. Make a complete list. Not just credit cards, but car loans, mortgages, student loans. Find your total monthly payments and interest rates. If any adjustable rates are set to reset soon, look for refinancing or faster payoff options before rates climb higher. Use online debt calculators to model scenarios. What happens if your rate jumps 3%? Second, diversify your savings and assets. Do not rely on just one account, one stock, or one type of investment. Consider spreading your savings between high-yield savings accounts, short-term CDS, and, if appropriate for your situation, broad market index funds. For educational purposes only, past performance does not guarantee future results. If you do choose to invest, consult a financial advisor for your specific goals and risk tolerance. Third, increase cash reserves. Aim to build an emergency fund worth at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses. If you are self-employed or have unpredictable income, more is even better. Think of this as your own personal stimulus plan for tough times. Use an automated savings tool to make setting money aside painless. Let us keep each other accountable. Comment below your emergency fund target and let us support each other in reaching it. Fourth, sharpen your job and network skills. Every recession sees higher unemployment, but those with versatile, in-demand skills land on their feet faster. Update your resume, add a new certification, and stay active in professional networks, both online and off. A single connection can be worth as much as a raise in a downturn. Fifth, prepare your essential documents and plan. Gather contacts and documents you would need if you lost a job or moved unexpectedly. Think unemployment insurance info, benefit paperwork, copies of important IDs, and even a list of supportive family and friends. For more, download the free recession survival checklist I have created. The link is in the description below. You can print it out, check off your own steps, and have a reference ready, just in case. Your situation is unique, but these core steps can help reduce your vulnerability to debt and recession risk, no matter what comes next. Before we close, I want to hear from you. What is your biggest concern about this debt-driven recession? A job loss, a drop in home value, or your investment portfolio? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Our community learns from each other's experience and solutions. And if you made it this far, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because Homer Invest will continue providing updates, breakdowns, and tools to stay ahead of economic shifts. You deserve information that empowers, not just scares you. Let us wrap up. Here's a quick recap. Global debt now stands at $315 trillion, according to the IMF and BIS. Every year, 10% of all global output goes just to paying interest, not principal, on that debt mountain. This is the result of decades of easy money, repeated bailouts, and the refusal to let recessions clear out the deadwood. But unlike previous downturns, the world is running out of options. Interest rates are high, inflation is a threat, and government deficits are at historic highs. The risk for a recession that is not just a correction but a deep, painful crisis is higher than at any point in modern memory. But you are not powerless. Start by auditing your personal debt, diversifying your savings, building cash reserves, building your skills and network, and assembling your essential documents and support systems. Print off the recession survival checklist from the link in the description and start today. Your first task: list every monthly debt, interest rate, and due date. Get clear on your numbers. This week, automate a transfer to a safe savings account, even if it is just $10. Within 30 days, aim to increase your reserves. Track your progress. In 6 to 12 months, you will be able to see real growth in your preparedness. Less anxiety, more options if things get tough. Tools like debt payoff calculators and free credit check services can help you track your risk and plan next steps. Seriously, do not try to predict every market swing. Focus on making your personal finances as resilient as possible. If you follow just a few of these steps, you will be better prepared than most families if the crisis hits. Be sure to subscribe to Homer Invests and turn on notifications, because next up, I will walk through real examples of how families weathered the 2008 and 2020 downturns and break down which practical steps worked and which did not. Comment below with your biggest personal finance question, and I will answer top picks in the next video. Download your free recession survival checklist to get started. Link below. And remember, this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Please do your own research or consult a licensed professional before making financial decisions. Past performance does not guarantee future results.